my first retreat in this March. I was 29, so I'm 30 now, and didn't do Hape that much after and during the ceremonies, the ayahuasca ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
I did it once. It was like a small dose. We were at like a waterfall in the jungles of Costa Rica, and yeah, it felt grounding, but it was just a tiny amount.
Mm-hmm.
So this retreat, this past like a couple weeks ago, I used it um, a decent amount, and it was such an amazing plant medicine, and that's what it is, a plant medicine.
Yeah.
Um, that really like just grounded me so much, and I've been using it with intention and praying. I never really, at least in the course of the past decade, had like a prayer ritual, and now I'm doing that with Hape and being very mindful of using Hape with intention, with prayer, because you can, once you like contract from all these, from ayahuasca ceremonies and whatnot, and plant medicine and the sweat lodge, and you've got all this love and laughter, and then you come back to, your regular responsibilities and just daily life. Yeah, just not using it because you want to get that pleasure feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to be, at least I am mindful of that, and just kind of listening to my body. Like the other day, I did it a good amount, and I was like, whoa, okay, maybe back off a little bit. It can kind of hit you a little hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been such a beautiful plant medicine to incorporate to ground me. So, I utilized it midday when I was like back in the busyness, and just to see like how it would feel. And, my mind, like my prefrontal cortex was back in gear just to execute on tasks. Right. And so I did it. I was like, wow, this is it just brings you right back to being centered
and present. Yeah.
And very present. And, so yeah, I'm very grateful to use it responsibly, with integrity, with intention, but it's been such a blessing to be able to use Hape as a means to integrate as well. So my first week back from these these ayahuasca ceremonies and the Temazcal, the sweat lodge, I utilized it pretty much every day. And as my mentors were saying, like, all of you are going to feel a contraction after having such like a open-hearted, loving, week, and the medicine is flowing through you. You're going to go back to, life and your regular responsibilities, and that contraction is going to come. And I didn't really hear the word contraction in the first retreat, but I like how this was displayed, like how this was, how they kind of gave us this heads up. And it was, for me, the contraction, thankfully, was very easeful. It was very, because I had that week off.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with people from the retreat throughout the entire week that I had off. Like Will, or he goes by the name Billy now after the retreat, and Brandon, and a few other friends. And it's just been a great way to kind of come back, integrate, have prayer, journaling sessions, and I bought like a Four Visions Market kit, like there's 20 different types. So I'm exploring how, because on their website they explain that each one has, they all have a lot of prayers and certain intentions when they're producing it.
Yeah.
And so each one has a description of like, this is a little bit mild and this one's a little bit stronger. And there's another one that I have, I think it's called the Divine Mother, and it's a heart opener, and it balances the masculine and the feminine. And the Jaguar one is more like
primal and
focus and whatnot. Vine of the Soul, I'm trying to remember exactly which, like their description on the website. I don't know exactly what it said, but that one is pretty grounding. But that's actually the one that I did the other day, and I was like,
yeah.
But I did a lot.
Well, that one too is, because it's the vine, the cappy vine of grandmother ayahuasca. A lot of times, these rapes or hape, depending on where, there's either Brazilian or Peruvian, and so they say it a little differently. But the different herbs and the different plants that are combined with the tobacco all have a different essence and carry a different essence. And the one of like Vine of the Soul, for instance, is, the cappy vine. It's grandmother ayahuasca. It's the non-psychoactive aspect of it, because the chacruna is what is the DMT and the activator when paired with the ayahuasca. And so it's kind of tapping back into her essence when you're using that one. That's what it is for me, because that's one I have too, and it's powerful. And I feel too a lot of times the potency of it does shift, because she's going in and clearing what is needing to be cleared at that time. And sometimes we don't realize that we're carrying the things that we're carrying, the heavy emotions or things that are just kind of sitting on the surface that need to be released. And a rape can do that. It can help push those things through with the different blends that are offered.
Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting ritual to. I mean, I've had you on and Will on now since those retreats. So I'm wondering if I'll be doing hape before every podcast, because it just kind of taps me in and gets me centered and makes me feel grounded, and very thankful. And so I'm very happy to have you on my podcast. You were, I mean, I know when you sign up to do these ayahuasca retreats, that's when the ceremony.
That's when the medicine.
That's when the medicine starts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, life is the ceremony. What I keep hearing, but that's when it really starts. And I've always had, at least in my first, for my first retreat, I had skepticism towards that. I was like, "What do you mean? Like, it's when I take the cup.
Yeah.
Like it's when I
when I drink.
When
I feel it.
That's when the medicine works, right? But it is very interesting because, once you sign up for it, you make that deposit, and you're like, all right, I'm doing this. Your subconscious mind does shift.
Yeah. You're making a commitment with her.
Yeah.
And
so, for any people that have done it and kind of doubt that, I think there is a shift of your subconscious mind when you sign up for this. And so you, even though we signed up, the medicine was kind of already working, you were an integral part for myself and Brandon for this journey, this inner work journey. And you were kind of like the beginning. We started, the retreat started on a Monday, but we met with you on Saturday before to do Kambo. And it's my second time doing Kambo. Pretty beautiful medicine. It's also pretty intense.
Just a little
at least from my perspective, my experience. But it does some pretty miraculous things. When I did Kambo for the first time, I drank a lot of water. I think I told you that. I expressed that with you. And it was just like chug as much as you can, even when you don't want to. You just keep going and going and going. And so I did find that. So I did physically purge. I did throw up, and I could tell that I did. Something came out that was like stuck in my gut. It was like a, just,
energetic, or
I mean, it was like this kind of whitish, yellowish substance, and someone told me that it could have been like remaining sugar from some type of food. I forgot what it was, but
candida.
Maybe.
Yeah. Kambo can definitely help with removing candida in the body.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so that was released. And then after it was, so once it was getting to a conclusion, had a emotional purge as well. A little bit different than the one with our session. Mm-hmm. It was more of a lighter, like cry. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I was like, where is this coming from? And I think that's also because as a man and within my life, I continuously, my ego pushes that, flowing of emotions down.
Yeah.
Like, don't cry because you're a man. If you cry, that's a weak aspect of, at least within.
It's an old domestication pattern.
Yeah.
As we, for men, and my teacher speaks on this, is where, as you're growing up, your past lineages and your father and your father's father, growing up, signs of emotion was signs of weakness, especially for men. Like, you'd hear, don't cry, suck it up, right? Mm-hmm. That's not allowed. It's not okay.
Yeah.
And so for all these generations, that's been suppressed.
Yeah.
And suppressed for, like I said, many generations, to where then now what I see, the shift in what's going on in the masculine, right, is that men are tapping more into that energy, right, of that emotion, those emotions. They're not hiding them, they're not suppressing them anymore. But I feel also the feminine is playing a big role in that as well, where the feminine, divine feminine, is really allowing space for the masculine to be in that, to show that emotion where it's okay. And there's this kind of duality in a way, an understanding of that emotional support on both masculine and feminine. And it allows then the masculine to tap into their feminine in a way that has also been suppressed for a really long time.
Yeah.
So it's really beautiful when, I have men that sit with me and release that emotion and have those deep sorrows and those cries, with Kambo, with Ayahuasca. I feel such a pivotal moment for them in a lot of ways. And it's an honor for me that I'm able to create a safe container and a safe space for that to happen. Because that's not easy.
No.
It's not easy, because of that fear of, being judged and whatever other emotions that person has been going through in their life, where they haven't been able to show that to the opposite sex, to the feminine.
Yeah. A lot of different threads. I mean, so a mentor of mine that I am currently doing like a program with him, one of the topics of discussion has been the differences between authentic suffering and chronic suffering. And I think that, so to provide more details on that. So authentic suffering is, it's when you go through something in life, for instance, a death in the family or friend or whatever, and you love them very much. So when they pass, you suffer. You have some grief, you have some sadness, and chronic suffering is an example of that. You know, it's you went to go present in front of like 100 or 1,000 people, you froze on stage, and for the next 2 decades of your life, 3 decades, whatever, you just ruminate on that. You ruminate, and it could be anything. It doesn't have to be presenting in front of a large audience or whatever. It could be other things. And so shame and guilt and humiliation kind of just keeps running in your being, right? And that's chronic suffering. And when I mean, even for myself and probably for a lot of other men, chronic suffering continues to just almost not allow your higher form of self to flourish. And I understand as a man, it is, you do want to be strong. You do want to hold this powerful masculine presence for your family, your wife, your kids. But if it's like this chronic suffering, this overwhelming, inflated ego type of masculine, it's not powerful. It's weak in my mind.
Yeah.
And to be able to authentically suffer, because we all suffer, we're all evolving, and we need to adapt, and to be able to have the courage and ability to express that without being afraid is, in my opinion, a stronger form of masculinity.
Yeah. And
so the contrast between the cry that I had with my first combo and this one, like the one that I did with you, I mean, it was, so we did the combo, you administered it, you held such a great container, by the way.
Thank you.
I felt very safe with you.
Thank you.
It was funny too, because Brandon had a
completely opposite experience.
Yeah, and he can talk about his experience, but like, I didn't physically purge. So I had not as much water as the first one, and you can kind of tap into why that is, like, the amounts of water that some people can drink during this session. But I mean, I definitely could feel the medicine. I could definitely feel the combo. And I was just sitting there, just letting my heart race and run through my system. And eventually it came to a conclusion, or it was getting to a point where it was like 15 minutes went by, I think.
Yeah,
and so my ego's like, should she put more? Were three marks enough?
3 points. Yeah.
And so I was like, I didn't I didn't feel like a purge or anything. And I know you have expressed, like, your purge can be completely different. Like, you could puke like crazy.
Yep.
Could have a bottom purge. It could be yawning.
Yeah.
It may not be this crazy volatile experience, but then as I laid down and you went over to Brandon, you were starting to implement the session with Brandon, I let out like this big cry of like grief.
Yeah.
I mean, it was deep sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah.
And to me, it felt like it was this stored grief or sorrow from so long ago that I haven't let out. And man, it was exactly what I needed to like go into the retreat.
And that's what it is. A lot of people that know about Kambo associate it with, I didn't purge. It didn't work. I'm not, nothing happened. But that's really not the case. That is the most common type of purging that happens with that medicine. But yeah, there are other types of purging, the shaking in the body of energy moving in the body and shaking up, and, the emotional release, the yawning, sometimes laughing, the top and the bottom. And it can be sometimes a combination of all of them, the sweating, heavy sweating, and again, in Brandon's experience, being completely opposite, he was dripping in sweat, right? And he had that top purge. And it really depends on the person and where they're at in their journey, where they're at that exact moment. Like you said, you guys were getting ready to sit in with grandmother, and this medicine is a great, like, sister brother medicine to work with pair with ayahuasca, because a lot of it helps get a lot of any type of surface stuff that's going on out prior to then. So when you are sitting with ayahuasca, you're able to kind of have a deeper journey and not have to worry about those things that are there. And going back to the sorrow, I felt that when the medicine was on and you did 3, and you were really focusing on your breath. And when I'm in that container, I'm able to really tap into the energetic body, and what is kind of going on, and in your experience and what was going on. And a lot of times I don't share a lot of it with the person. It's just as don't want it to be a form of projection, or to then that person creates a story around that. I want them to be able to have that experience however it's supposed to be for that person. But I felt, if you don't mind me sharing, okay, I just wanted to ask permission first. So I felt that there was a lot of I don't even know the word I would use for it, but I could feel that there was just this, your heart was very closed down in that experience. And as you were breathing, I could see energetically your heart kind of open and close, kind of like it was with like your breath. It was like open and close, open and close. And then when we removed the medicine and you didn't have that purge, there was this moment where I was like, there's something emotional that's going to happen. And that's why I just let you be in that space. Because sometimes too, this medicine Kambo is a very vulnerable medicine. It puts you, especially if you are used to being in control, it can really force you to surrender in so many ways. The spirit of that medicine is going to do what it needs to do and go where it needs to go. And the key word with this medicine is to surrender. And a lot of people have a hard time with that, but that's why I left you in that space, because intuitively what came through for me was that you were not needing like my attention in that way for you to have that release. And I knew the moment I stepped away that was kind of that shift was going to happen, and that was going to happen. And so then at that point, I just wanted to, I held space for you right before, because I knew as I was starting to work with Brandon and that was coming on, I wanted that comfort for you, that level of comfort, and to feel safe, but to also allow you to be in that process on your own because of what you had shared with me after it was made sense. But what you had shared with me as far as that vulnerability with emotion. And, I'm an emotional purger anyway. It's hard for me. And the many ayahuasca ceremonies I've been in, it's been really hard for me to have a top purge. It's deep sorrow and sadness. And sometimes it's mine. And sometimes, because I'm a ceremonial space holder in our retreats, it's others. Yeah. It's as a collective, as the container that is being held. But circling back to, this medicine, we can set the intentions all we want. But ultimately, the spirit of this medicine is going to do what it wants to do and going to give you exactly what you need.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
Super proud of you too, by the way, because that's not easy.
Thank you.
Again, because of that old domestication and that old imprint that the masculine carry.
Yeah.
And it does make you, I feel, a man that's able to show that emotion. To me personally, I feel that it is a superpower for the masculine, for the men. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to witness.
Well, thank you.
You're
and
welcome.
I have so much respect for you playing that dance. That dance of like, not projecting, but also making sure that I'm, like I'm okay and that I'm handling my experience in the way that I need to handle it. Because a part of me was getting close, being like, did I do something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Like
that happened.
And a few other threads came up. Yeah, and I've opened up about some vulnerable aspects within my life with, authentic suffering, so very young age, losing my mother and certain abuses happening. I've discussed it on the podcast, like abuses happening right after she passed. And that just kind of, this cycle of, I think I've heard a term like complex trauma. So you can go through a really traumatic experience, and if you don't work through it in the proper way, it can kind of continue to snowball, right? And that's what happened within my life. And I expressed that with you and Brandon in the session before, and Brandon was he mentioned, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was just saying at one point, like how stoic I was. And I was like, I mean, I don't know if I was stoic, but I was just letting it happen. Right. And then, but also your like motherly caring energy of just doing what you needed to do in the midst of it, which I can't even really remember what you were doing as it was flowing through me. I know you have certain like sage, I believe, or
Palo Santo,
Palo Santo.
sage,
Yeah.
and mapacho, which is a jungle tobacco.
Yeah.
It's an ally of mine and a relationship I've built with it, and it's a protector, a healer.
Yeah.
A master cleaner. It's a master teacher, master plant.
And so that was exactly what I needed, and I was very grateful because Brandon had told me he was going to do Kambo before this retreat, and I thought Kambo was going to be included, and it wasn't. So about a few weeks before, I was like, I kind of want to do it. I think I'd like to kind of. So so grateful for you and for what you do, and so I think it'd be great to just kind of provide an explanation of Kambo. I know you went to Peru, so you had a pretty adventurous experience firsthand, extracting the substance. But for people that don't know what Kambo is, I think it'd be great to just kind of get into that.
Yeah, I would love to share that. I did. I just spent 2 months living there in Peru for my first time. And I knew when I went with my teachers, my dear friends of mine, we had spoke about this, and I knew that if I was going, I felt this strong pull to, in the beginning of my journey, to go to the jungle. I really wanted to go to the jungle and connect with this medicine on a deeper level. I've been working with this medicine. I started working with this medicine personally 6 years ago.
Okay.
And it changed my life. I can circle on this a little bit and touch on this, but my whole life had suffered from depression, anxiety. I had been in a car accident when I was 17 that had caused a lot of chronic pain in my body. And I was taking opioids for that. I was also, as a kid, diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. And I was put on medications for that as a child, as a young child, teenager. And, I went through most of my adult life on these medications. And I always felt this sense of like numbness on the antidepressants and the ADD medicine. And I felt so off balance. And then about 6 years ago, I was still taking these medications, like Adderall and hydrocodone, mostly in my adult life. And about 6 years ago, I got to this point where I went to a doctor one day and, the whole opioid, it started blowing up where all these people were abusing opioids and the protocols that these doctors were having in order to get a prescription was just like jumping through hoops. And I remember one day sitting at the doctor's office and he's like, well, now you have to come every, and I didn't have insurance at the time. And it was like, you have to come every, 2 months and I have to write your prescription. It was just this whole like jumping through hoops.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, this is ridiculous. And then, I went home and kind of just sat with that. I was like, I'm sick of kind of being on this hamster wheel and in this like 3-dimensional, like what would the word be? Just in this like hamster wheel of this way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting, like 2 weeks later, a friend of mine went and posted on Instagram that she had just got back from the jungle working with Kambo. And I'm like, instantly was drawn to it. And it was just like, frog, like, what is this? So like, and I reached out to her and she shared with me her experience. And I then set the intention of just, okay, I'm feeling called to this. And I ended up finding my teacher. She was a practitioner living less than 2 miles from me in Dallas. And I was connected through her, through my intuitive healers that I had been working with in Dallas. And I, spoke with her and she's like, well, you have to get off all these medications, like basically. And I was like, well, here's my opportunity, right? So I went and weaned myself off of everything on my own. I was like, I'm done going to the doctors. I'm not doing this anymore. I just didn't feel alignment at all. And so I did. I weaned myself off and I sat in my first Kambo session probably about 6 weeks later. And, it was at that point, my very first session, it didn't have a top purge, didn't have a bottom purge. It was all emotional, where it was this sorrow. And I felt, I hadn't cried in a really long time because of the medications kind of masked those emotions. And I sat with that and this connection I had with the medicine, it was like, I felt like I was home. Is the best way to describe it. And when the medicine, I did placement on my heart chakra, on my spine, and I felt the medicine go in and just like hug my heart. And as it hugged my heart, it was this huge emotional release. And that was like my first sit. And I'm like, so my teacher's like, we do what's called a 3-sit inoculation or a Trinity sit, where it's you work with this medicine 3 times through 3 ceremonies within a 28-day cycle. And that with the benefits of this basically are, your first time, it's an introduction, with any medicine, plant medicines, any type of medicines like that, holistically, you're building a relationship with them, with rape, with tobacco, with mapacho. You're building a relationship. And so this 3-sit inoculation is like that. You're building a relationship with this medicine because your first time, you don't know what to expect. A lot of times we have a hard time surrendering. And then the second sit, it's like you can kind of go deeper. And then that third, a lot of times it's this clearing of everything that's been coming up over the last 2 weeks within that 28 days. So I did that and changed my life. I haven't touched a single, even Tylenol since then. I haven't drank in 5 years. I no longer suffer with depression and anxiety. I did also dive deep with this medicine. I didn't just do the 3 sits. I worked pretty deep with this medicine, sitting every 6 to 8 weeks for about a year. About a year working with that and the things that were coming up. So yeah, and then I've just continued to work with it. And it was in one of my ayahuasca ceremonies that this medicine showed up in my journey and showed me this old lineage of me facilitating this medicine as an old medicine woman, like long gray hair, I was like in this jungle, like place. And she shared with me, she's like, this is your medicine. This is your purpose. Because my intention for that ceremony, that ayahuasca ceremony, was, what is your purpose? And she's like, this is your purpose. This is something you know and you've worked with for many lineages. And you need to share this medicine with others because of what it had done for me as well in this lifetime. And so, you know, I, of course, was like, no, I'm good. No, no, thanks. You know, wasn't ready at that time. Even though I wanted to know my purpose, I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And then a little while longer, you know, time went by, and my teacher's like, I'm doing this training, practitioner training. And I was like, okay. So I went and did my training, and it was mainly for just myself, to be able to self-administer on myself, you know, to help continue, you know, doing my work. And then it started when I moved to Austin about 3 years ago. It started showing up in Dallas afterwards. I was like, oh, just share with my friends. Like, I didn't charge. There was no type of exchange that way. And started showing up. And then when I was in a ceremony again, an ayahuasca ceremony, Mother Ayahuasca was like, gave me this hard confirmation to like move to Austin. And gave me these conditions and how, you know, I basically like these things, and then this abundance will flow for you. And I surrendered to that, and I was like, okay. And I did just that and did exactly what she had asked in that ceremony. And since then, this medicine has continuously shown up. It has been in abundance for me. And then so, you know, back in July, I had this beautiful opportunity to go to Peru, and went to Peru. And the first part of it, I spent in Iquitos and in the jungle for the first couple weeks. And it was all about paying my respects to this beautiful medicine and thanking this beautiful medicine from where it originated from, for all it has done for me personally and for others that it has done. And I also went to just ask permission if this was still okay for me to, you know, be a conduit, like for this medicine, to be able to, you know, share this medicine with others. And, you know, going out into the jungle in the middle of the night with the Matsi tribe member, just a machete. And you're like, okay, we're out in the middle of nowhere, like 2.5, 3 hours outside of Iquitos, and in the middle of nowhere, and a 1.5 mile trek to this retreat center that my friend owns. You know, no water, no electricity.
Wow.
Sleeping in a little hut with an outhouse as the bathroom, and all the density of the jungle. And, you know, and it was amazing because it's like, you know, you could feel the essence of Mother Ayahuasca there. Like, that's where she's from. And, you know, Kambo being there, that essence of that spirit, hearing it, you know, the croaking, it has this distinctive, you know, calling. Yeah, we go out to the jungle, and Robinson is, you know, doing the call, and the frogs are responding back. And we went to look for the frog to bring back with us to the village to sit with fresh medicine the next morning. And that was like nothing I've ever experienced. Fresh medicine is completely different than the medicine that comes on a stick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. And so what's the name of the frog?
So it's the Philomedusa frog is what it's known. Giant monkey tree frog is what it's called. It has not one predator in the jungle. It's a pretty big frog. I would say the size of your palm, and it's this beautiful green color, and there's this gentleness. So, I got to carry one of the frogs that we found back that night, and it was just this deep connection I was feeling with that frog, that medicine, that spirit, and man. Then the next morning, the same thing. Like I asked permission before sitting with the medicine. I asked permission from the frog, and it was a loud yes as it was sitting on my arm. And I felt the spirit of it connect with mine and give me confirmation to continue doing this. And so I sat, and it's 1 point of fresh medicine is equivalent to like 4 or 5 points. Wow. And I did even the furthest away from my heart, which is the ankle, which is another place to apply this medicine. And it was full blown, like top purge, bottom purge, almost passed out, sweating. It was really intense, and they don't time it for 20 minutes. The way they do things is a little different. With fresh medicine, they actually leave the fresh medicine on. They never remove it because it has this different texture. And they just let it dry there, and that acts as the Band-Aid instead of the dragon's blood that we use with the stick medicine.
Okay, I have many questions.
Many questions. Ask away.
Well, first, to stay on the topic of the frog, so it has no natural predators, and that's because of the substance that
it secretes.
It secretes, and that substance is what Kambo is. That's what's applied to your body. The potency, I'm curious as to just because it's so fresh and whatever's within that medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, because my first time when I did Kambo, I was like, oh, so it's frog poison, right? And my friend was like, well, we don't always like to call it poison.
Yeah, it's not poison. It's a secretion. It's the milky white secretion. Yeah. It's that secretes when the frog is feeling it's in a stress. It can be someone in a stressful state.
And does it use that substance on their, I think I heard, for their nesting as well, for their babies?
They do.
They do.
As a protector.
Okay. So I've seen videos, and I think it was in your video that you showed us, of how to extract it. Could you get a little bit into that?
Yeah. So first of all, the tribe I work with, they have an immense respect for this medicine. They know all the benefits of this medicine and how powerful it is, and they don't do any harm to these animals. Even when we were in the jungle looking for the frog, and Robinson was calling the frog was responding back, and it willingly, with that call, comes down. It willingly, because it lives typically in the tops of the trees, and it's hard to even get to, on your own. And it would willingly come down. And so to me, that shows that the frog is in alignment with, it knows the spirit of that frog, amphibian, knows that it's got these healing modalities. And so they really honor that, and they take very good care of these amphibians, the spirit of this medicine. And when they extract it, they don't use string, they don't use anything hard. They actually take like palm leaves, and they make little loops. Then they do take the loops and put them over each foot and each arm.
Mm-hmm.
And then they stretch the frog out, but not in this. I mean, it was a little hard to watch, but it's like not hurting the frog. The frog completely surrenders to it. It doesn't fight, what's going on. And then they just sometimes will, in the nasal area or the anus area, will kind of take a little stick and kind of tickle its nose or that area. Excuse me. And I got a frog in my throat. And the frog just starts to secrete.
Yeah.
And so what they do then is they take a stick and they glide it across the frog in that area, its feet, its legs, its back. And then they place that medicine onto a bamboo stick. They also don't harvest medicine from the same frog for up to a year. And they only harvest like one side of a stick off of each frog.
Okay.
So, and then they let the frog go. And the frog just goes back and does what it needs to do.
Okay.
So, and they don't ever leave it depleted of its medicine to where it can't protect itself.
Just holding it. Yeah. It's not like being held in a cage and just doing it every Friday night.
No, not at all. Not at all. Like there were a few frogs that we did find that he released and said no to because they had recently been, he could tell they had recently been harvested.
Oh, how could he tell?
Sometimes there's this little marking that is left from when the palm is on. And he said instinctively he can tell as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of a little bit of both.
Cool. And then the dragon's blood. What was that again?
So the dragon's blood is a tree sap. It's from the acacia plant. It's a antimicrobial, antifungal, antibacterial, and that's what I use to apply. I apply that after I've removed the medicine as a protector. It's kind of like the jungle's version of like a liquid Band-Aid.
Okay.
So like once that medicine is on it and dried, it protects, and there's no need for, Neosporin or Band-Aids or anything like that because it protects and it keeps it, the wound, the opening, the gates clean. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was in a session with you, you had asked about keeping the medicine on. And I think that I was kind of confused. I was like, does that mean you're going to apply more? And at the time I was like, I don't know if I want more to be applied. But I think that if I had known that it was just like leave it on for it to continue to, because it's just entering into your body because you're burning, right, with a little bit of.
There's superficial gates that are burned through the top layer of the skin. So to basically open up and so there's no blood or anything like that. It's a superficial point that is opens up to then the lymphatic system, helping to purge out through the lymphatic system. That's where that medicine goes.
Okay. Because at first I was thinking, I mean, everything was perfect the way that it needed to be. But a part of me was like, I don't know, because I haven't purged yet, so I should apply more. Or give me more.
Give me more.
The American way.
Yeah.
Just give me some more. So that's interesting to know. And the burn marks like don't even hurt at all. And I think it's also even with my first time doing Kambo, I just knew that I was in for something even more, like a little bit more intensity. So like the burn marks, you're like, just, go ahead. Like that doesn't even matter. It doesn't even really hurt, to be honest.
No, and they're small. I mean, they're smaller than, an eraser.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give a little bit of an idea for people listening that don't know. And there's different places you can place them on the body as well.
Okay. And so, so you were in Peru for 2 months.
Yeah.
And Yeah, how was the experience of being with that tribe and just being in the jungle? I mean, it sounds pretty amazing. I was in Costa Rica for the first time and in Dominical, so it wasn't like flew into San Jose, but then we went to Dominical, and Dominical is definitely more in nature, more in the jungle. There's not as much urbanization.
Yeah.
So it was really a sight to see, and the sounds that we like hear. Um, it's beautiful just to hear all the different animals. We even heard a puma, like it. So it's very, I think, from an American perspective, people don't totally grasp the experience of getting out of the concrete jungle and going into the actual jungle. And how you feel.
Yeah.
Like how you feel afterwards. So I'm curious how your experience was.
Yeah. The jungle was very grounding. I felt my body, drop into this state of like this homeostasis state. I felt my nervous system like deregulating and really just calm. And, it could be a combination of that and the Kambo, because Kambo does that too. And we did sit, but
Yeah.
because you're away from all of this like over stimulation. Yeah. Of every day. And so really being able to drop into that was such a great start to my journey and my trip in Peru, because after we left there, we went to the Sacred Valley. And I stayed and lived in the Sacred Valley for 5 weeks. So in Pisac.
Okay.
And it was a great place to integrate while I was there as well. Like, working with, did a dieta with Kamalanga, a plant dieta, which is another ally of mine now.
And dieta
is so...
Because I kind of know.
Yeah, I can share that.
But I think sharing that would be cool.
Yeah, so a dieta it's called a plant dieta or a plant diet. And what it is there's certain plants that you can work with, and definitely wanting to work with someone that is familiar with it, not doing it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it in things like tincture, like rose and stuff in tincture form and all of that, and that's fine. But big plant dietas like Kamalanga that we did, you definitely want to do with someone that knows what they're doing and has held dietas before. I do want to say that. But so what a dieta is you and that plant. So it's usually 7 days or more of solitude, where like no chemicals on the body, no shampoo, no brushing your teeth, no deodorant, no chapstick.
Oh, get nice and stinky.
Yeah, pretty much. No salt, no oils, no fats, no sugars. Like, it's a very bland diet, a lot of times of just white rice and some chicken that's boiled and a little bit of vegetables. Very minimal food too, as well. And no types of communication with the outside world. No phones, no computers, no nothing. Some books you can read, and notebook you can journal. And it's really just you and that plant building a connection and a relationship. And a lot of times the wisdom of that plant will share with you what it knows. And it will, you develop this relationship without any distraction with it. I work with these plants a lot of times, and when they'll gift you icaros, which are medicine songs, or they'll gift you beautiful songs, or like Kamalanga, for instance, when I worked with that. So that is you diet the seeds of it, There's a male and a female seed, and you drink. It's made into a liquid form, like the powder, and then mixed with water. And there's ceremony around it. You open ceremony before you drink, and all of that. And you drink a few times a day. And this medicine, what it does is it's great to work. It works best in the dream time. So while you're sleeping. But what it does is it goes in and cleans out all these different thoughts that we've accumulated that are like old thought patterns and old ways of thinking, or just the everyday like chatter and mind chatter that go on that aren't necessarily positive. Sometimes the way we speak to ourselves, it goes in and kind of like cleans house and cleans that out. And then you've got this space. So the beauty of that, while it's doing that and you're in this solitude, there's these beautiful moments of like, I call them aha moments, like where you're like, oh, and like this connects. And it's like almost like neurologically like rewiring the brain in certain ways. And, that's my like type of pharmacy and the way I work with things that are going on for me personally, like my work. One's like Bobansana is another one. It's a beautiful pink flower and it grows in the basin of the Amazon. And that one is known for opening up the heart and clearing out any constructs that the heart is carrying, like things, heartbreak or sorrow or, losing people that meant something to us, like family members or friends. But it really can open up and clear out the heart.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I was looking at your Instagram just to take a look before the episode recording. You had a post that had 2 columns, and it showed like one column was all like prescriptions. So pharmaceutical prescriptions, and the other one was plant medicine, I think. And it showed, the contrast between them. Because you mentioned like that's your pharmacy. And I very much so gravitate towards that as well. Growing up, I did drink alcohol and smoked a good amount of weed when I was a teenager and adolescent. But whenever there was a lot of people in my high school and in my town that got into pills. I mean, and that's like, I thought it was weird at the time, but it's clearly very common in rural parts of the entire country. And anytime, I might have taken a few things here and there, like a handful maybe.
Yeah.
But I just knew intuitive. It's like, no, I don't like this shit.
Yep.
So I very much so have gravitated towards plant medicines. So to kind of go back to where we were, you were in the Sacred Valley because you were mentioning dieta.
Yeah.
So if you want to continue with that.
Yeah. And so Sacred Valley, first got there, and the power, the energy that's there of the mountains. Man, I mean, every night I would go to bed and my body was just vibrating. It was hard to kind of sleep and adjust to that in the beginning, just the high vibration that exists there. You've got these beautiful ancient ruins, the Inca Trail and the Inca ruins there. But you also, the people, their way of life is so beautiful. What I noticed, they don't have much, right? Nothing like here, right? And they still have all this love and this joy and this happiness towards one another, towards, tourists. They respect the land there. You can tell just by the way the land is there and how loved it is and how much they honor and respect it because they know how powerful that the land, that Pachamama, Mother Earth, like she provides, like she's, you know, they know that there's not pharmacies on every corner, CVS and a Walgreens. There's holistic shops, like herb shops that they sell all these tinctures, and you know, they know what the earth provides. And this way of life they have is just beautiful. They're just very appreciative of what they have, and they have this, like, they believe in sacred reciprocity. They're very loving, welcoming. There's just, I mean, even down to the food that in the places that you eat there, you can taste it's not full of pesticides and GMOs, and you know, the presentation, even in like these little places in Pisac, edible flowers, and it's all fresh, and it's like most of the places there are restaurants, you would call them. It's like family owned. And like the mother and daughter at this one place was like one of our favorite places called Mama Cocha. And the daughter ran the restaurant. It was small, and the mother and the other daughter were in the kitchen. And the food, you know, and that's it, 2 people in the kitchen, you know, and the food that comes out, it's all nourishment. If they run out of something, they run down the street to the farmer's market and go get it. It's not, and they don't go to a grocery store, you know, or they have people locally that they buy from, or they pick stuff from their yard. They bring, you know, farm to table pretty much. Everything is like that there. It's really beautiful. And just like overall their way of life. Yeah. It's so different. Yeah. So different. Yeah.
Pack up and move there.
Really. Seriously. Yeah. I feel my time being divided to going there, to staying there, the culture. Yeah. It resonates.
Yeah. I've given some patience on the idea, or just on the feeling of moving to Costa Rica in particular. I think that after my first retreat, I had a lot of like just abundance of love and great feelings, ecstasy and all this stuff. So I was like, all right, don't make any drastic decisions. But still, to this day, I do feel the urge to not move there full time, but I love Austin. Austin's great.
Yeah.
It's a great spot. But to be able to kind of have Austin as a home base, and then be a part of like a community like Costa Rica and learn from the culture there, is something that I desire. Yeah. And it's still there. It's been over half a year. So I definitely foresee, as my path evolves, going out there, and even Peru would be great. And so yeah, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Super cool that, because we technically didn't, me and Brandon, we didn't really get the freshest. It wasn't like right off the like what you got, but it was still pretty fresh.
It was from there.
Yeah, it was from there.
The stick, I brought a few sticks back.
Yeah.
From the tribe, so it was only like maybe 2 months old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very powerful. And so I saw in your Instagram profile, it said Kambo and shamanic practitioner. Could you provide an explanation of, because a shaman in my view is someone that creates multiple things, whether it's plant medicine, but also certain rituals, ceremonies. Wondering how that journey has, like that part of your journey has evolved.
Yeah. So, you're right on the term shaman. It's been used quite a bit lately. And I don't consider myself, that's why it says shamanic practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider myself a shaman. I consider myself a space holder.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself I've been gifted, these, like you said, shamanic rituals on different medicines like drape and sananga and
The sananga, I forgot about that.
yeah, the sananga.
Talk about that too.
Yeah. I've built relationships with these medicines and have received confirmation to share them with others.
Mm-hmm.
And introduce others to these medicines so they're not having to resort to pharmaceuticals. So they can help connect with themselves and to, so they can develop a relationship and they can become allies to them as well. But yeah, so I look at myself as a ceremonial space holder. In the other retreats that we do, that as well. Like I said, my purpose here is to be in service, to show up and be in service. And however that is supposed to be, and show up, then I'm open to that in full acceptance to it. And so when you're in that state of surrender and flow and in acceptance with that, these allies, these things have shown up for me and have asked for the relationship, and I've taken time to build the relationship and then to offer that to others. Mm-hmm. So I just started getting into, holding, cacao and rape and sananga ceremonies in my home, like once a month. I've done 2, one before I left for Peru and then one like 2 weeks ago. And I have other modalities, like I use singing bowls and drums and other shamanic tools like, rattles and chacapas and feathers and all those things. So,
yeah. The sananga. Whoa. That was
fuerte.
wild.
That was your first time, right?
Yeah. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Surprise.
Brandon was like, yeah, I want to skip the sananga and just do the hape.
Yeah.
I was like, why not, man? Come on.
Yeah.
And I had an idea of what it was. They're eye drops. I didn't realize how powerful it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple different blends too. I think I gave you medium.
Oh, wow. That was medium.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I didn't give you fuerte.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, so that was, sananga was administered first for me. Yeah. And I lied down. You were sitting right next to me. And you apply them to each eye. I think it was like 1 drop, right? 1
drop per eye.
1 drop. Thanks for just doing 1 per eye.
Yeah.
And my eyes were closed. So once they were dropped, you don't feel it. I actually didn't feel it at all, really. I thought maybe it would like seep in.
No.
And then you open it. As soon as I opened my eyes, I lost my breath. Like,
yeah.
It was,
oh, shit.
It was that. It burnt that much. So could you describe, just what sananga is, but then also when incorporating right before a combo session, like how it's helpful, or like how it's kind of like a brother or sister to that medicine.
Yeah. So sananga is also from the jungle. Mm-hmm. It's a plant, and they typically will make it into a liquid form in that way, like through a dropper or something. But a lot of times that plant grows wild and free there. And they try to get me to do this once before and I wouldn't do it. But yeah, they can. So a lot of times the leaf that it where it comes from, it's derived from it. They'll slice it open and then they just pull their eye down and put it in their eye and talk about forte. I'm like, no, I'm good. Not gonna do that. But this medicine is beautiful because it clears and decalcifies the third eye. It helps work with mind chatter in the body, in the mind, chatter in the mind. It can help clear out energy in the body as well, stuck energy, what they call as panamea.
I've heard that before,
yeah. It can really help you just kind of recenter and refocus and be back into the present moment. You know, why I like to use it with Kambo is because, you know, there's nerves that come with working with that medicine. I mean, I still, when I administer on myself, self-administer, I'm like, you know, what's this going to be? And that really helps to calm that down. That really helps to kind of just bring you back into center. Even though it burns and it's intense and the breath, you're like, after that subsides and the burning subsides, you're really able to drop in. And then there's the things just kind of float and clear away, the talk and all of that. And, you know, I work with it at night. Sometimes I'll work with it for like 30 days straight at night and in the morning, where I do it in the morning, a drop in each eye first thing, and then at night before I go to bed. And it helps with, again, like purging the mind, like dream purging at night, where these old thoughts, kind of like Kamalanga, where the old thoughts, it kind of pushes those things out in the dream time. It can also give that mental clarity and the great start of the day to whatever remnants is left over from the nighttime can clear out. And it helps. It has this overall eye benefits, like health with eyes. I know I have slight stigmatisms in both of my eyes, and when I use it for long periods of time, I notice the stigmatisms are different, where my vision is better when I'm not wearing my contacts or my glasses. And, you know, it also, it helps with that, but it's just been, it's given clarity on a lot of things mentally in my mind when I use it. And my vision, it's like the colors are more vibrant. Like you see color, it's just got this vibrancy to it. And the sharpness of like the trees and just things in general. There's more, there's like a sharp, it's like someone took the TV, like, you know, and went, you know, increased the sharpness in every day. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. I didn't have a crazy amount of mental chatter before going into the combo. I definitely was a little nervous.
Did that subside?
It helped, yeah, for sure. Definitely put me into a different gear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to hear. So right now you're because we did like it felt kind of like a private session at your house. Is that the main thing that you're doing, or are you doing retreats as well?
So I haven't done a combo retreat yet. I was really just waiting for that to line up, when that was in alignment. I have a tendency of not forcing those types of things. I just, if it shows up, it shows up. The intention was out there. And while I was in Peru, in the jungle, and my friend who owns this beautiful retreat center out there, they specialize in Kambo, and he does Kambo dietas.
Okay.
Like 2-week dietas. They also do ayahuasca and plant dietas out there as well. But his retreat center is based on Kambo dietas.
Okay.
And so when I got back, he reached out and we actually spoke, and he shared interest of possibly him and I next summer leading a Kambo retreat out there at his facility. So, and
That's cool.
I heard like a F yes when we spoke about it. And it won't be Kambo for 14 days, but it'll be what you're needing, like offering Kambo in what and how much you're needing. We're still working out logistics of that. So yeah, leading probably a group of 10 to the retreat space for 2 weeks. Next summer, it's their flooding season right now, so it has to wait. It's kind of starts to happen in January, and then it's like 6 months or 5 months of flooding.
Oh, really?
Out there, yeah.
Okay.
So it has to be like our summer. It's typically their winter out there.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited for that and how that's going to show up and what that's going to be. But yeah, to be able to introduce more people to this medicine and to be able to connect with the medicine and where it lives, where it comes from, the spirit. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear about your experiences with ayahuasca. So if you feel called to share, like almost every single ceremony. So I like to call each time I've done it a retreat. Some people like to call the entire multiple day period that ceremony. But it seems to me it's like each night is its own ceremony.
Yes. Yeah.
So first retreat, 2 ceremonies of ayahuasca, Temazcal, Sweat Lodge. This retreat was 3 nights of ayahuasca, Temazcal. Every single one was extremely powerful, very intense.
Yeah.
To the point, I've been telling people, and I think I said this to you before we started recording, but I hesitate to put a lot of analytical words around it because I've just found that when you do that, you just want to be careful with the story that you create.
Yes.
I think it's really, really important. I'm reading this book called Liquid Light. Fantastic book. Fantastic book. I highly recommend it.
Check it out.
It's called Liquid Light, and the subtitle is Ayahuasca Spirituality and the Santo Daime Tradition. And so the Santo Daime tradition is one of many different religions that incorporates ayahuasca. It resonates with me very much so. Very interested. And so Liquid Light is this guy that's he's from Dallas, I think, or he resides in Dallas, and he's very intelligent. So he's a scholar, he's an academic, but he's also done 15 plus years of working with the medicine. So it's a pretty cool combination to have someone that's intellectually really skilled with their words, because he puts a lot of respect into the context of when he describes all of this. It's been very proficient and nourishing to read his words, because I don't know how to put words to these experiences, and that's why I'm hesitating to to do it. Right. But so it's been helpful to read it. And all I can say is that I get these various different visions of my own path. And he talks about in the book, like how you can interpret it, and you can make really, these big decisions that are shown to you throughout these inner works, and that feel absolutely right, and they turn out to be absolutely right. And I've just gotten confirmation on my path moving forward, because in between these 2 retreats, I had doubts. I had a lot of doubts about certain things of my evolution as an individual to be of service in some capacity. And I just got confirmation on these paths. But I also just had, without being able to really put into words is like, I mean, it was something much more powerful than me. This divine spirit flowing through my being.
Yeah.
Right. And I've said to a few people, and when I say it, I actually there's a little bit of fear, because I always was like, I've never said this before, but I felt like I had a direct contact with source, with God.
Yeah.
And before I would have been like, that sounds kind of like, you know, overly woo woo, or, you know, because a lot of different organized religions, whether it's Catholicism, Christianity, you know, they go to church and they read the Bible and they practice by reading the Bible, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't just reading a Bible. This is like something fucking flowing through.
Yeah.
It is a powerful.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's overwhelming too.
Yeah.
It's not just like, and you know, this before I ever did ayahuasca, and within the Santo Daime tradition, they even call, like, when you take ayahuasca, you're taking the daime, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just incredible. It was the most powerful experience of my life. And how my first ceremony of this retreat was the most intense, most powerful out of all of them. But they were all intense. They were all powerful. But like, this was like, whoa, whatever this source is, it is showing up.
Do you feel like it was your higher self?
Yeah. I mean, there's certain moments where it's just like the visuals, right? Like, so you've got visuals, geometric patterns, crazy things going on. So that's what you're seeing, and eyes are closed.
Right.
I couldn't even open them.
Yeah.
I literally, if I tried, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's the way that I've described it is your nervous system. My nervous system was like, you can't right now. You can't do this right now. And
be still. Just lay here.
Yeah, and that's the thing is this author of Liquid Light, he talks about the capacity to get deeper into the works is for you to rest and be calm and be centered.
Breathe. Yeah.
And you know, the first time ever doing it, it's so new. It's so like, whoa, what is this? This is magical.
Yeah.
This is like not real. This is whoa. So like a couple of times I'm like kind of looking around and stirring a little bit, like feeling like making sure I'm still like, you know, like
I'm here.
What's going on? Okay. But then this time it was just like letting it happen. And you know, the music is just like profound too. It really heightens the experience. And so, yeah, I had the medicine kept going for me. So the ceremony closed. And the author I've highlighted so many sections of this book, but he has a really great part that helped describe my experience. So the ceremony closed. I felt so many different emotions. And at the very end of the ceremony, they're like, if you feel called to share anything, you can. And I was like, dude, physically just like,
couldn't. Yeah.
But I did.
Did you?
And it was very simple.
Yeah.
And at the time we were like stretched out, kind of like praying, and it just came out of me. I was like, I'm stronger. And that's all I said. But like the people that were conducting the ceremony were like, you know, they showed respect or whatever. And so, but I could feel the medicine so intensely once it closed. And as I was like walking around, when you know it was probably like 3 or 4 in the morning. You're like getting soup and water and trying
snacks.
To go to the bathroom like as best as you can. But my senses were so heightened, like extremely heightened. It felt like I could see stars farther than the ones of the first layer. And shooting stars were like very, the moon was out, very bright. We were on a ranch. It was like off grid, right? So, and these pieces of fractal energy. I wish I had the book with me because he describes it so well. It's as if like, so when I would approach like an artificial light, like a lamp, I could see these like pieces of fractal energy happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is that? Am I a superhuman right now? And he really eloquently talks about how it's almost like these pieces of different, I don't know, like different energy or maybe parts of reality. I don't know. But it was like, it was almost like electric, like electric bolts. And I could hear conversations much farther away from me. And so I was talking to Will and the shaman. So the shaman, because I was going to, like, everybody started going to bed. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't. It was so powerful still. And the shaman was like, it was such a, I'll never forget it. I mean, he had this like, you know, powerful energy, very holy energy. And he just was checking on me because he knew I was still in it, like the force of the medicine.
Right. Yeah.
But when I was talking to him and I was talking to Willie, the way that I was speaking felt like the highest self I've ever felt. Like what flowed out of me was the most powerful expression of me. And for, you know, I haven't had a really strong understanding and practice or investigation of Christianity, but there is a term called Christ consciousness, in which you're just in the most highest self. Like there's certain moments in your life, and if you don't believe in Christ consciousness or that term, but it's like you're in a flow state or you're in a moment where everything that's flowing out of you is just effortless, but it's also extremely powerful. It feels so right, divinely right. And all the words that were coming out of me was just like me and Willie, we were just talking to each other, and it was like, it's indescribable. It was indescribable. It was like
your higher selves were having a conversation.
Yeah, it was wild. So, and I mean, I could go on. I don't want to make the whole, we have a limited time. Don't want to like go all out on the retreat, but it was, you know, combination of many different things and these geometric patterns and whatever was flowing through me, but then also really creative expressions of my path moving forward, like that I would not be able to do in ordinary day-to-day thing, like just sitting around. And it was pretty similar to what I experienced when I was in the March retreat. I was like, okay. And then like the next day I approached these two gentlemen and I was like, hey, I'm in. And I won't go like too much into the details, but it was like, they knew I had doubts about something. And the next day I said, I'm in. And I did read a section of that book. It was like, don't make too many drastic decisions, right?
Yeah.
But to this day, because I was contemplating it for so long, right? Had doubts about myself. It wasn't about them. It was about myself. Like, am I, you know, maybe not worthy is the right word, but like, do I have the qualifications or do I have the capacity to be this type of leader? And I mean, so if you like, and you know, it's been almost 3 weeks now and it's like, yeah, this feels right. This is it. So I do see that balance of like not making drastic life decisions. Yeah. Especially like when you're in like in it, that sacred space.
Yeah.
But it felt so right.
Yeah.
It felt so right. And it still does.
Right.
So anyways.
And if that's the thing, there's no rush then, right? If you're receiving, you know, during that time confirmation on how to, you know, what the next step is or, you know, what you're here to do, right? Trusting that if that's what it's supposed to be, it'll be.
It was very strong, like intuitive.
And it's going to show up, right? So staying into this flow state of it and not forcing it. Yeah. I mean, we tell people too all the time, we're like, during integration, don't do anything drastic. Don't quit your job. Don't pack everything up and take off and, or make any rash decisions because, sometimes those are, messages that are coming through, but they have a different message. Like they can show up as something different, or if it's something that might be happening that could end up happening, right? And that there is no rush in that because you are still in the medicine. The mother is still working in you, she's always with you. Like once you work with her, like she's forever with you. She's there. You can call her in anytime you want, she's a very intelligent medicine. And so, sometimes it's, it's a deeper message in a different way. And, it's also letting you know, like, this is what you're capable of. And it's helping you, like you said, maybe not worthy, but to me, what it sounded like for me was that, your self-worth and what, stepping into that and your self-worth and realizing your power and realizing what you're here to do. Because, I mean, this is a passion. This is something that you love to do, right? Yeah. And this is going to start, if this is where you're supposed to be. I'm just a big believer in if where you're supposed to be in life, it flows. And when it doesn't flow, it's because that's not where you're supposed to be. Yeah. And then if you have that realization and you realize that, and taking a step back and going, okay, so this isn't working. So where do I need to be in order for it to be in that flow? Because when you are in the right space, that it flows.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's very helpful.
Continue doing this, and, if it's showing up for you how it has been and, organically been showing up. And, I've watched some of your podcasts on your Instagram, and like I see your talent. So, and I think this is,
Yeah. And for context, like, the confirmation and the right, like, yes, wasn't even really about the podcast, because like it was about another like leadership role.
Okay.
That's been organically presented to me.
Beautiful.
And offered to me.
Beautiful.
And so I had a lot of doubts. And so you were mentioning how at one point you took the medicine and you were shown like Kambo. You're like, no, I'm not ready for that. So that was kind of like what I experienced. Yeah. And I had all these doubts, but then I was still considering it. And I was like, this does feel right. But then my ego, I had a lot of mental chatter, And a part of that was coming back from the first retreat and just immersing. Like I post a decent amount of clips, and then you kind of get sucked into the algorithm of social media and then work and then just life stuff. And so you have a lot of these swirlings of different ideas and opinions and preconditions and whatever. And so those doubts kind of just weighed more so than like listening to my intuition. Right. And so like things were cleared and, it's like 7 months went by and it was like, no, this is right. Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely feel called to continue to work with this medicine in a very intentional and sacred way. Yeah. And in particular, the Santo Daime. But anyways, I asked you a question about 10 minutes ago, or at least proposed for you to describe your experiences. This medicine, these experiences that you go through is like going to Hogwarts. It's like, I think it's even,
that's a way to describe it. Okay.
No, not Hogwarts, but like, it's so like you're opened up to something that you could never even believe or even create in your own imagination to think it was possible. Which is beautiful. It's beautiful. And it seems like it does so much magic on almost like recalibrating every part of you, like your mind, your body, your soul. Like I didn't get any sleep the first ceremony.
Yeah.
But the next day I was like,
I felt great.
Good. I was like, my brain was like, I was speaking like motor, motor speed, like everything was flowing fine.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like literally got almost 0 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your perspective of ayahuasca. So like a lot of, we've referred to it as mother. There's this feminine presence.
Yes.
And I've never done peyote, but it seems to also be kind of trickling into the flow of my life.
Peyote.
But it also seems like, so that seems to be the masculine plant medicine.
Well, actually, peyote, when it's in its natural state, actually is a feminine.
Okay.
And then once it is, to my knowledge, what I've been taught.
Okay.
And then once it has, I'm sorry, that is Wachuma. And I'm not sure about peyote, but I know in Wachuma, San Pedro, it's when it's in its natural state it's Wachumita.
Okay.
And then which Wachumita is female.
Gotcha.
And then once it is broken down and made into a medicine in that way, it's then takes on a masculine. But I feel it has a duality of the masculine and the feminine.
Okay.
That medicine. And I even believe that ayahuasca does too. I believe that, yes, she is the grandmother in many, many ways because, growing up, it was always the grandmother like, like she checks you, right?
Yeah.
She's a lot of times very in her like dominance in that way. And the grandfather, for me at least, like it was always like my grandmother was Italian woman, just, and the grandfather was like, okay, but she's a very intelligent being.
For a lot of people too, like, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Like if I were to try to describe this to my parents or to family friends, relatives, other friends, even when you say a powerful being and like this is the most like a divine, highly intelligent being, like they are like, excuse me,
what's wrong with you?
You're drinking like,
what are you on?
You're just drinking plants. You know, like what do you mean by an intelligent divine being? But just really quick, that author talks about two types of knowing: knowing by acquaintance, knowing by about. Knowing by acquaintance is you're in a car, you have a car crash, you're in the car, and so that your knowing of the experience is visceral and you understand it. I read a book about the car crash, I understand it, the setting, where it was, how fast that car was going, but there's a clear difference of knowing. So knowing by acquaintance. So all I can say is you can read books about ayahuasca and this divine intelligent being, but you're knowing about it, but not by acquaintance of it.
Yeah.
And so, anybody that I speak to with respect, like if they haven't done it and they're kind of judgmental about it, it's like, sorry, like it's kind of, it's tough to be able to have a conversation with them, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No,
I just kind of
you're
want to
good.
provide.
No, I mean, and ayahuasca I feel is for everybody, but it's not for everybody, if that makes sense.
I think so.
Yeah, like, it just really depends. Intention is really important when working with this, that you're going into it not just for the psychedelic experience, but to go into it with the intention of, learning more about yourself or doing healing work around that, around, things that have gone on in your life or, the psychoactive part of it and the psychedelic part of it, the journey, it's beautiful. But also the integration part of it is what's really important. Just like you said earlier, which is so true, where, the second you say yes and you make that agreement, she shows up, and then she already starts to work. Well, the same thing. It's like the ceremony part is beautiful and it's important, right? Because we can receive a lot during that time. But the integration part, I feel, is just as important, if not more important. Because a lot of people, what happens is you go and you have this beautiful journey all weekend. You're immersed in the woods, and you're around all these beautiful people, and it's a safe container, and you meet, it's that. And you have all these beautiful experiences, and you share, we have integration circles after each ceremony, each night, and you're sharing this personal stuff, and everyone's there to hold space for that, and there's support and love. And then most people get out of that, and then they go right back into their everyday life, like the hustle and the grind.
Yeah.
And they don't allow enough time for integration and, or being out in nature, or, taking time to themselves. And that's really important with that medicine, because during the integration process, there's a lot that goes on. And if you're not in a place where you're open to receive that, I feel like you can miss a lot in a lot of ways. But the experiences I have had with her, I've had so many experiences with her. I mean, I've been working with this medicine and my relationship with her for about 4 or 5 years. And the teachers, I call them, are dear friends of mine that I work with. I've sat with them, and we have retreats pretty often. Usually like every other month or every 2 months.
Okay.
But my relationship with her has changed in the last, year and a half with her, where it's been more of a teaching role, an apprentice role. When my first ceremony ever, it was 2 nights. And it was with the people I work with now. And I felt this call to help and show up. She had given me this, message I wanted to sit again and deepen my relationship. It was like she kind of wanted to build a relationship with me, and it was, mutual, right? And I just started showing up to every retreat and cooking, and it's what's called ayudante. And just started being in service in that way for, my teachers. They needed the help. They were doing it all on their own. And then holding, an 8-hour ceremony at night, and then, hanging out afterwards, and then getting up in the morning and cooking breakfast and being in service. They were doing it all, right? I just continued to show up, and my relationship with, Mother Ayahuasca shifted in so many ways. And it's now been this where I get work done during ceremony, but it's like where if I'm needed to help somebody, it's like I drop out of the medicine to basically help. And then the second I go back to my seat, I'm back in it again.
It's so wild how that
it's
can
so
happen.
Wild. And the parts where you can't see, there's been times too where she won't pull me out of the medicine, and she's like, let's see how far you've come. Let's see what what you're made of, in a way, let's see. And where I haven't been able to see anything in front of me, and I'm like, how am I going to go help this person? And where she's opened up, and I've been able, it's all visuals and beauty, and then there's this a portal that she kind of opens to show me where I need to go, and then it's I get there, and it's back to where I can't see again, and yeah. I'm like, okay. But I mean, the messages and the beautiful relationship I've built with her. I like to keep some of that private and not share too much about that because of my relationship with her and all of that. But she's changed my life in so many different ways. And there's copious amounts of gratitude for her. She's just, she's a being, a powerful being. I don't even know. Like, I can't articulate it either. It's just, she is what she is. And she takes on so many different forms and so many different roles. And yeah, it's like, I've been in it for a while, and I still have, like, I can't process some of it and wrap my head around some of it, where it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know that she has that motherly instinct where she's guided me and supported me and shown me where I'm supposed to be.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can conclude it at that. I always like to provide the opportunity for each guest to relay where people can find you.
Yeah.
If you want to relay that, whether it's a website or social media, and I can link it in the show notes as well.
Yeah. I have 2 Instagrams.
Okay.
I just started. I went back and forth with this, building a website and doing all of that. It's organically showed up, Kambo, and I really wanted to honor the sacredness of it. But then there was another part of me that really wanted to have a place where someone could go and get information. So I have recently just built a website. The name of my Kambo site is Kambo Espiritu, or Kambo Espiritu. And also that's on Instagram. That link is in my bio. I'm also Cory Valentine, Cory Valentine, Miss Cory Valentine, on Instagram.
Cool.
So yeah.
It was an honor having you on.
Yeah, thank you.
So
I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super cool to the flow of guests that come on. It does happen organically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
thank you again for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you.
All right.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.